And you have made significant milestones in your mission to bring people practical solutions to their health problems. New York Times bestselling author Dr. Mercola was also involved in the 2009 Ultimate Wellness Game Changer by the Huffington Post and has been featured in Time Magazine, LA Times, CNN, Fox News, you name it. We're honored to have you with us. Again, Mercola, MERCOLA.com. And the reason you're the most respected of all the alternative health researchers, in my opinion, is because you just go off the real research, and there's so much to cover. But what can you say about, I mean, my view, I don't know if it's your view, but certainly from what I see on the ground, there is a collapse of confidence in the system. Everything we talked about last year about the H1N1 lowering your immunity, being dangerous, that's now mainstream news, British Medical Journal. I mean, there is a collapse of confidence in this corrupt system, and the establishment is responding in a lot of strange ways, but it does look like the dam has broken. What's your view on that?
Well, I think we're making progress. There still is a large contingency of the public who is still fooled and deceived by the very effective marketing tactics that these industry employ. I mean, they literally generate many tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in profit, and they're able to really hire the most sophisticated and clever marketers on the planet. So it's a really sophisticated system, and it's really difficult to break out of that mold. But once you yourself have an injury or the system fails you, then you're really seeking more sound, logical, rational alternatives that really don't rely on expensive and toxic approaches that could literally kill you.
And I see the statistics and the numbers of 300,000 dying from drug interactions, hundreds of thousands from infections. I mean, boy, I tell you, this mainline health care is one of the biggest killers out there, rivaling even automobile accidents. On your radar screen, what do you see as the biggest threats out there? Is it sodium fluoride in the water, bisphenol A, GMO, cell phone radiation? I mean, you cover it all. The stuff, as I said earlier, you were covering 10 years ago is now just all over the mainstream news.
Well, it's a good question. I'm not sure if there's anyone that sticks out. It's really a combination of them, but I think probably it's just the concept and the belief that the traditional model is the approach for healthcare challenges, and that is the relying on a drug. And we're bombarded on that, of course, from the media. They spend over $16 billion a year to do direct-to-consumer advertising on TV. And, you know, the United States is only one of 2 countries in the world that allows it, where it's even legal. So it's they've really manipulated the public to the belief system that this is the approach, because these drugs are almost universally going to cause some type of side effect, if not death. I mean, it's routine. I mean, Avandia has just killed 80,000 people. Before that, Vioxx killed 60,000. And these are the ones that we know that are really getting the news. I mean, there's dozens of others that are less toxic. So, it's so much. It's choosing that system and that approach, and you're ignoring the basic practical strategies that one can use, which of course doesn't generate profit and revenue for these large industries. So I think it's a belief in that model that's the most dangerous threat. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, and when I watch these drug ads, it's absurdist. It's like they're openly admitting this drug is probably going to kill you. Oh, you're having trouble sleeping, or you're having trouble, needing to urinate a lot. And they'll tell you 10 seconds how great it is, but then they say it may not be right for you, causes heart attacks, sudden death, brain damage. I mean, it's bizarre. And then ask your doctor about this drug. I mean, it's sometimes I'm pinching myself, wondering if I'm having a bad dream.
It almost seems that way, doesn't it? It really is. Because you go to any other country in the world, you're not going to see it on TV except for Australia. There's only 2 countries in the world that allow that.
Let's start.
And it really, you look at these, and it's been on for 15 years, but prior to 1995, those ads did not exist in the media. It was illegal. But then they lobbied Congress, and they were able to get permission to air those.
Meanwhile, they're always waging war against alternative medicine or even vitamins and minerals. Now they're demonizing, vitamin D. It just gets crazier and crazier.
Well, it wasn't so much a demonizing, but the Institute of Medicine came out with a report last week which really essentially ignored the stacks of new studies and research that that establish vitamin D as a very useful approach in over 2,000 diseases. And they only focus on bone health, which we've known about for about 100 years, and they ignored all the rest of the research, and virtually no vitamin D experts were on the panel. It was really a travesty. So, it's hard to nail a specific conspiracy, but there's some actually lawsuits against this recommendation because it's really deceiving the public and not allowing them to fully utilize this incredible resource, which is about one of the least expensive vitamins you can possibly purchase, and one that has probably the most significant impact on your health.
Sure, but I mean, by demonized, I was thinking of Dr. Dean Adele, who, I mean, I listened to him, and just almost everything he says is patently false, and he was just flipping out and saying that, it's bad to take most vitamins and that we don't need them. But then I look at all the studies about vitamin and mineral deficiency, and what a big problem it is. When we come back, I want to discuss a lot of the articles that are at Mercola.com. Pregnant women should minimize exposure to cell phones. I want to look at that. I want to look at all these reports of different chemicals that are in plastics that we are eating our foods out of, and what that's causing, ways that, from your research, are the best ways to detox, all the thyroid problems. We'll talk about it with Dr. Mercola. Dr. Joseph Mercola is our guest. Coming up in about 10-15 minutes, I'm going to open the phones up specifically for health questions that you have for him. I have a few of my own questions. The toll-free number to join us is 1-800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Doc, going through the articles that I see you posting and that your great researchers are putting together that link to all the mainline medical studies that are out there, it's not just bisphenol A we've got to worry about. You've been reporting on the other chemicals that are in the liners of the wrappers around hamburgers and other things that are causing serious problems. Can you go over what bisphenol A and these other chemicals are and what the studies show they're doing?
Well, the article you're referring to, we posted last week, a study that came out that showed that these wrappers, which are usually put in place to prevent the grease and oils in the fast food from leaking out, as they would if you use regular paper, there's these sticky coatings, and you see some of it too also on the microwavable popcorn. So the way they're able to do that is really similar to how they achieve a nonstick surface, which is they put a fluorinated chemical compound, and this fluorine compound actually dissociates and it migrates into the food. So you're actually eating these compounds when you do that, and that's definitely not going to be
fluorine. That sounds like fluoride.
Yes, well, it's a fluoride compound. There's no question.
Well, they just love to give us fluoride, I guess, because they love us.
Well, it's a pretty useful chemical. It's a really interesting innovation to have a material that you can fry food with and not stick, but it does it at quite a price. I used typically, when I'm lecturing, tell people if they have any non-stick finishes to either find a relative or a neighbor they don't like, give it to them, because the stuff is toxic as heck. But actually, it's not that toxic as long as you don't heat it. But the moment you heat it, you start to volatilize this fluoride, and it goes into a gas, and it can cause health problems. And it's so much so that if you're in an enclosed environment, you could actually kill pet birds. I mean, this stuff is really toxic. Oh,
I'm sure it's an accident they're doing this. Also, they report on the bisphenol A is in most, or 40%, and they said, 60% of the printer ink. So I guess I'm touching it right here, right now. I mean, this stuff is just everywhere.
Well, and it's sort of stealth, too. And when you go to the grocery store and you get these receipts, it's on those receipts. So, you want to really minimize your contact with those.
Now, the good news is, 4 states have passed laws to start restricting this, at least for children. They're pointing out that it's in the baby bottles, as, again, you did a decade ago plus. So we're starting to move in a good direction, but now we're finding out that this stuff is just everywhere.
It's pervasive. There's no question it is. And aside from the bisphenol A, you have the phthalates, which is a chemical that's added in the manufacture of plastic to make it pliable. So any plastic that's flexible will have these phthalates in there, and that's another chemical that's loaded with complications, and that also should be banned.
Well, from my research, correct me if I'm wrong, a large percentage of petrochemical waste, in some cases up to 30% of crude oil they have to get rid of, and so they just created industries for the distillates, what was left, and that's where most of this stuff comes from. It's petrochemical leavings, and so they just put it into our food chain.
And they charge us a pretty price for it, too, just as very similar to what they've done with fluoride waste products, which is a common waste material in the manufacture of aluminum.
Well, I'm not the leading alternative health research director out there like you are, but I do talk to the public. I do see things in mainstream media. I hear women talking on radio. I hear women talking in grocery stores, women's magazines. I read them. It's got to be a third or more of the women, young women, are having thyroid problems. Their hair is falling out. Is that a cocktail of chemicals with this epidemic of women's hair falling out?
Well, there's two primary ones that are culprits, and they tend to be these halogens. It's important to understand that iodine is an important mineral that we need for thyroid function, but it's easily displaced by these other halogen chemicals or elements such as fluoride and also bromine. So fluoride is becoming pervasive, and clearly the most common source is in the water supply, but fluoridated toothpaste is also another issue. So when you're consuming that and you're consuming most bleached flours, it's bleached with bromine. So almost all the flour out there is brominated. So these bromine and fluoride ions displace the iodine from the thyroid, and as a result, you can't form thyroid hormone because that's what's part of the thyroid hormone is iodine. So that's the mechanism. Soy is also another pervasive one that's really there's a hormone in there called isoflavones, which actually act as a goitrogen and impair thyroid health. So the combination of these fluoride, bromides, and soy are probably the biggest culprits for
unbelievable. Stay there, Doctor. Long segment coming up. I want to continue going through this. So what do women and men and others who are losing all their hair, they're becoming obese, even though they're not eating a lot, I mean, how do you reverse this? And is there a way to clean it out? Well, we'll be right back, folks. Fluoride everywhere, and no clean food or water for us to drink.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
So, Dr. Mercola, you get the same intel that I'm receiving. I mean, they admit in the media that thyroid dysfunction's off the charts. Perhaps you can talk about those numbers, but just women everywhere, talk show hosts, you name it, young women, I hear them talking about it, and I see women all over the place. You can see their hair falling out. I mean, how much more obvious does this poisoned environment have to get? Please continue breaking that down.
Well, the bulk of the people that experience this are women. My guess is it's certainly the majority of women, but perhaps 75, 80% of women have some challenge with it. And if your listeners are interested in finding out if they have a problem, you certainly go online, our website, or Google it and find out what the symptoms are. But there's a blood test you can take. It's called TSH, which is short for thyroid-stimulating hormone. And, of course, the normal conventional lab test normal ranges are off. But if your number comes back below 1.5, then it's okay. If it's above 1.5, it'll be most likely you have a problem. But you'll be told that you're okay if it's below 5. So there's this range where almost all the conventional doctors are misunderstanding and misinterpreting the results. So it's far more common than traditionally believed.
So what do? Get off these things that have the fluorines and fluorides in it. Stop using the non-stick. Stop drinking out of the bisphenol A. Stop drinking the fluoridated water. Stop bathing in it.